The national project that's being launched today is called 1001 Critical Days and involves a range of organisations in Oxfordshire. Adrian Sell's leading the survey here in Oxfordshire. Adrian, good morning.
Good morning, Charles.
Just sketch for me what it's all about.
Well, as you said, the first 1001 days of a baby's life, which is the time from when the baby's conceived through to about its second birthday, we now know is a critical period in that child's life. And the early experiences that baby has, the early relationships, primarily with its mother most often, are critical in terms of ensuring that baby has a loving and secure start and a secure foundation from which to go out into the world and learn and be a successful, happy person.
So we're saying the baby's picking up experiences from the word go even before birth?
Yes. I mean, from when the baby is in the womb, it can pick up on environmental cues and signals that are happening in the world around it. It can start to hear from 16 weeks or so, and the emotions and the experiences that the mother's going through will have some part. And then obviously when the baby is born, the relationship with the mother and forming that close bond is very, very important. And we know how difficult and how challenging being a parent can be. Parents can feel quite isolated and quite cut off from support and quite unsure about what to do. So it's very important that they can find that sort of support early on in life.
Now, this is an ongoing project. How can people get involved in it?
Well, to coincide with the national launch you mentioned, we're launching a survey in Oxfordshire to find out about to hear from people with recent experiences of pregnancy and early days of a child's life. It's being supported by Healthwatch Oxfordshire and will be going up on their website later on today. And we've got involvement of health visitors and midwives and voluntary sector organisations and children's centres locally to try and get the message out to people. So there will be postcards going out and posters and other information which will give people details on how to engage. And
hopeful of a real difference being made?
Yes, I mean, I think we know there's lots of services out there like GPs, midwives, health visitors, hospital support, other support in the community like children's centres, which we know are obviously under threat, which is a huge concern. But other community support around breastfeeding and social and therapeutic support that people can access. And we really want to hear what's working well, what people have found very important for them, for their experience, and what they think might be improved for the future.
Thank you, Adrian. Adrian Sell. Now, I'm very interested in this because I'm always interested in the well-being of children, but my experience of pregnancy and early years has receded somewhat into the distance. It was my older son's birthday the other day. He was 27. How do these things happen? Emily Savage-mcglynn from Oxford is a mother of two young boys, though. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning.
You've got boys. You've got two...
two beautiful boys,
ages?
Yeah. 8 years old, Brendan, and I've got a 1-year-old named Grayson.
Okay, so you're pretty well in tune with the goings-on of the early years. How important do you think the early years are?
I think they're really critical. I mean, as Adrian said, I think the early years, they're really, really difficult. I mean, you don't often get taught how to be a parent. I mean, you experience it, you sort of see it secondhand, but you have this beautiful baby in the hospital or at home, and then you're sent off into the world and you're responsible for them, and nobody really ever teaches you how.
Which of us hasn't had that moment? As you say that, a moment comes back to me from 27 years ago of holding this new child, and it was me who got to hold him first because his mum was unconscious at the time. Right. It was me who got to hold him first, and I looked into this little pile of blankets and saw these little eyes looking out, and I remember thinking, you think I know what I'm doing, don't you?
Exactly, yeah.
How can I break it to you?
Absolutely. No, and I think it's really important, that mums and babies have an opportunity to sort of have the best start, both sort of prenatally, but when the baby first arrives, to have that chance to sort of get to know one another, bond really, really well, have that really loving, sensitive attachment between the two.
And that bond in the early days, it's magical to watch it happen because you can almost see the brain of the child. You can almost see them absorbing stuff like a sponge, this soaking up knowledge of the workings of life.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually physiologically, there's a connection between mum and baby in the way that brains work. And so there is this sort of unheard, unknown kind of interplay between mum and baby. And right from the very moment that the baby's born, things are happening for mum and baby to get to know one another.
Yeah. Now, you've researched this from an academic point of view. You are also, as we have established, a young mum.
Yeah, that's right.
Do those two roles sit easily alongside each other?
They do sometimes, they don't at other times. I think it's been really, really helpful to have the background academic knowledge to kind of understand in those moments why a baby's crying or what might be going on under the surface. But I think sometimes, I often say to myself and my husband, sometimes you can know too much. So if I'm having a bad day or, something's going wrong in that moment, I do have those moments where I think to myself, oh my goodness, am I damaging my child for life or what have you? But I do know that this idea of kind of repairing issues that go on, everybody has a bad time of it, That's what being a parent is all about. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. It's all about, in that moment, doing the best you can, and providing whatever sensitive and caring support you can for your child in the best way that you can.
It's one of those things about life, isn't it, that we are landed with quite possibly the biggest challenge of our lives at a time of our lives when we're really not that well equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also if things are getting a bit too much of a struggle, knowing where to turn to and who to go to in case you do need a bit of extra support. So whether or not that's your midwife, your health visitor, GPs, even some friends sometimes, there are lots of support groups that are popping up around the area where if you're having a difficult time, talk to somebody. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having a bit of a difficult time when you're a new mum or a new parent.
What don't we do well enough?
I don't think we do well enough about talking about the bad things. When you're a new mum, there's this expectation in society that everything's supposed to be rosy and wonderful and you've got this beautiful baby in your arms and everything's supposed to be perfect. Whereas actually, you can have some miserable days. Things are difficult and sometimes you don't quite know what to do or, And it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have difficulties. And I think as a society, we're not that great at kind of being gentle with one another and respecting each other's difficulties and helping out when things are tough.
Breastfeeding is a good example of an area where there's huge expectations on people. Lots of people feel vast amounts of pressure and sort of expectation that it should just work magically from the word go. And for lots of people, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's actually it can be one of the most difficult things. For mums where it works well, it's great. And I've been very fortunate that for my two, I've breastfed and I'm still breastfeeding Grayson. But we still had those early days where it was a bit of a struggle. It can be a bit uncomfortable in those early days, but with a bit of extra support from the health visitors, and there are lots of wonderful resources in the community through children's centres and breastfeeding cafes. You can get that help. But equally, it doesn't work for everybody. And I think at the end of the day, each mum needs to kind of take a step back, think what's best for her baby, and just provide that child with whatever the best care they can possibly do, even if that means bottle feeding or.
So your big hope, as we talk about 1001 days, your big hope from this campaign?
The big hope is just that mums and families just really have an opportunity to know that there is support out there, that the most important thing is that they do their best for their child and, provide that sensitive, attentive caring, and that in those early days they have an opportunity to spend some really good quality time, slow down, spend some good moments with their babies and just really get to know them, because the early days, they go by so quickly.
Don't they just? Thank you. Emily Savage-McGlynn from Oxford. 14 minutes to 8.
With exclusive access to Oxfordshire's travel cameras.
This is BBC Radio Oxford Travel.
And here's Danny with the latest.
As it starts to get